Hey everyone, Andy with Reverb, and I'm here in glorious London just for a short time. So I want to get a glimpse of what it's like to be a musician, specifically a guitarist in London. So who better to ask than my Australian friend Dan Steinhardt from That Pedal Show.
G'day mate!
Hey Dan,
how you doing?
Good to see you.
So, we're going to go visit some guitar stores, we're going to see some venues, we're going to see some record stores. It's going to be ace.
Oh, can't wait for it.
All right.
The Guitarist Guide to London. Let's go.
Let's do it.
London. There's a lot of history in this town. 2,000 years of politics, theater, science, art, and perhaps most importantly, tone. It's a massive city, and there's no shortage of musical destinations for any guitarist making the trip to add to their list. For us, the first stop was an easy choice, historic Denmark Street.
Here we are in Denmark Street. Any self-respecting guitar player visiting London for the day really needs to come here and check it out. There's a lot of changes going on in Denmark Street, some controversial. However, there's some fantastic guitar stores down here worth checking out. There's always some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I've heard so much about this place. Rolling Stones, Sex Pistols in the same breath as Denmark Street.
Yeah, all around here.
I'd love to go check it out.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. The shops of Denmark Street are full of stories, but near the top of that list is Regent Sounds.
Denmark Street works like a department store split across loads of little independent stores. Everyone has their little corners of the market. And it seems to work quite well. It was always lots of record labels, production companies and stuff that were all based around here. Songwriters, that kind of thing, would flock to Denmark Street to pitch songs, sing songs, whatever they could do to kind of make their mark. I mean, the restaurant just a few doors down used to be the Giaconda Cafe, which is where Bowie used to live outside in his converted ambulance and sit in there and write songs along with Elton John and the likes. It was a mecca for that kind of thing. When it started to become guitar shops, it kind of kept its history. Under current ownership, we've been here for 8 years now. The store itself used to be a studio. Late 40s through to, I think, sort of like late 80s, it was where the Rolling Stones recorded their first 2 albums. Black Sabbath recorded Paranoid in here. Hendrix, the Kinks, the Who, David Bowie, Elton John, Tom Jones. There was a lot. It was like the place to be. We've kept the original flooring, which is cool. We'll get the space back eventually once all the renovation works are done, so it'll be good.
Okay, so for any fuzz pedal fans, this place, certainly for me, this is like hallowed ground.
Absolutely.
Macari's home of solar sound.
Opened in 1958 by brothers Larry and Joe Macari, Macari's is the longest-running instrument shop in central London. It remains family-owned to this day by Larry's son Steve and Joe's son Anthony Macari.
So how it started, as you walk out the door, on your right is a furniture shop called Made.com, and that was Jennings. So that was where my uncle was the manager, and that's where the Stones and the Beatles and the Shadows got their amps. And so once you head past Jennings, you'll come to Chipotle. That was Selma's, where Jimmy Page shopped, and where Pete Green bought his Les Paul, where Paul Kossoff worked. Pretty amazing. And then in about 1960, my dad and uncle managed to get a shop together, because they've always wanted to work together. And it was the first music shop in Denmark Street. So before that, it was like publishers and writers, agents, and studios. A lot of people were making treble boosts as well.
Yes, yeah.
I think it was my uncle's idea to say, let's not just boost the treble, let's boost the bass and everything else. They got hold of this and made this amazing sounding pedal. And rumour has it, it was used as a boost until Jeff Beck got hold of it and turned it up there. So this was the Jeff Beck band pedal before it was the Dave Gilmour. Yeah,
Jeff was using this for a couple of years before Dave Gilmour had it, and then Jeff showed Dave Gilmour this, and that's how that all started.
They sent it to America, and the Americans loved how it sounded, but thought it still looked a bit flower power.
It looked orange and bright. Yeah.
So they sent it back. So this had the same circuit in it, the first one. Sprayed it black. And I've never, ever absolutely got this for sure, but rumour has it that Mark Bolan called it the Overdriver.
Oh,
so
really?
He came up with the name. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If you like power boosts, I've got a real treat.
Oh, okay.
It's into the vault we go, where Anthony has some fuzz gold to show us.
If you would have come in 1970 and asked for a power boost,
right,
it would have looked like that. Ooh. And how amazing is that?
That's original.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Never been sold.
How much?
Not everything has a price.
Yeah.
Man.
So this is the one that the story is about in the book.
Right.
This is my...
Oh, stop it.
There. We call that the System Mark 1. So the guy won it in beat instrumental in a little competition in 1965, and he was in a band called the System.
Right.
About 14 in Scotland, and he's carved the System in the side. And the other guitarist in the band was a guy called Ricky Gardner. He did some sessions with Bowie on like the low stuff,
right?
And he wrote The Passenger with Iggy Pop.
Oh, wow.
So it's got this great Bowie connection as well, apart from being the Mick Ronson. You know.
That's amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. Wow.
Fabulous, isn't it?
See, the problem that you have now is that everyone that sees this is going to want to come down here and grab these out. Yeah.
We'll check back later to see what other gems we could find on Denmark Street. For now, we're heading just up the road to the heart of Soho. While many famous spots have come and gone through the years, Soho still contains some of the most famous venues in the city.
The world famous Ronnie Scott's in Soho. This would be my favourite venue in London. It's the coolest place in the world. Very famous jazz venue. Hendrix played his last gig here, and it's been around for such a long time. I would say if you're interested in going to Ronnie Scott's, they're booked up for sometimes months in advance. Right. So if you are coming to London and you're interested in seeing an artist play here, book in advance. But it is an experience you will never forget. It's just so cool.
It's a legendary place.
If you're more of a blues fan, Ain't Nothing But the Blues is a great spot for exactly what the name implies. Round the corner on Oxford Street, you'll find the 100 Club, which offers a bit of everything in one of the city's most historic musical locales.
We're stood in the foyer outside the entrance to the 100 Club. I would say there's a strong argument to make that this is the most important, certainly in British rock and roll.
Wow.
So in the 40s it was a jazz club, the Felden Jazz Club, and then in the 60s it turned into the 100 Club. It's known as being the oldest independent music venue in the world.
Really?
Yep. The Sex Pistols played here. This is known as like the birthplace of punk.
Really?
Yeah, Susie and the Banshees, and they all started here. Yeah, Muddy Waters, B.B. King played here, the Rolling Stones. It's amazing because it's a small venue. But, Metallica, the Foo Fighters have all done secret shows here. It's an incredible venue simply because of the history. Right. And to do a show at the 100 Club is a really big deal.
But the venues aren't the only part of London music history that's been preserved. Beyond Soho and into an alley in Mayfair, you'll find a set of buildings where George Frederick Handel lived for 30 years in the 1700s and where Jimi Hendrix lived in the late 1960s.
Oh, wow.
Look at this.
How cool.
This is like time traveling.
As Hendrix fans likely know, Jimi spent a lot of time in London in this period, frequenting the many clubs and venues of that swinging scene. This humble flat was his home base between '68 and '69, and in recent years, the museum has recreated his bedroom as it was at the time, using a wealth of old photos as source material.
So here's the question. Was Jimi Hendrix a futon man?
It's a deal.
No, I don't think so. I think he was sprung all the way.
There's a few sections of the museum leading to the recreated flat itself where you'll find some gear, clothing, films and photos, and info on Jimi's time in London. But we tried to stay in Jimi's room as long as possible to soak it in.
Well, I feel the song's coming to me.
You know the rules, Andy. Always give the hat to the ball man. Wow.
Banana?
Just a quick jaunt down the road and you're at Carnaby Street, where countless members of rock royalty would frequent in the second half of the century.
So this is Carnaby Street, and it's a really good example of how things have changed. So back in the 60s, this was where all the rock stars came to get kitted out.
Right, their frilly shirts and everything.
Yeah. It's very different now. It's a lot more commercialised. It's still very cool. We're still very central London. It's still very cool, but very different.
If you're looking for cool shopping nowadays, you might head up to Hoxton and Shoreditch, where you'll find a plethora of restaurants, venues, and clothing stores on Shoreditch High Street and Brick Lane. Naturally, there are some great guitar shops around, such as Lucky Fret. Catering to the music scene of Shoreditch, Lucky Fret specializes in custom shop Fenders, but offers a wide assortment of new and used instruments and boutique effects.
Lucky Fret started out in 2011. I started the shop in an apartment in Spitalfield, which is not too far from here. I think an important thing is customer experience, not putting too much pressure on customers, having really good inventory for people to check out. And we have a really good line of boutique guitar pedals. Yeah, we try and tick a lot of boxes for our customers and fit a number of price points, although we do specialise in kind of higher end vintage and sort of Fender custom shop side of things. So I think it's about the customers being relaxed and being able to sort of sit down and try some things and end up with the thing that suits them the most.
The North American Guitar in Hoxton is a splendidly curated showroom of fine instruments. It's all high-end luthier-made fare, all lovingly selected by founder Ben Montague.
We're kind of known as being the UK's #1 guitar shop for boutique brands and high-end custom guitars. Part of the fun thing about starting your own business is being a guitar nut. You just get to sort of scour the web and find brands and instruments that you love the look of, and you get to go and play at shows. Start a relationship with people and then see if they want to have representation. That's literally what happened, and then it kind of snowballed from there, really.
Also in Hoxton, you'll find Andy Baxter's Bass Shop, featuring a fantastic collection of vintage Fender basses and other 4-string marvels.
You know, every shop I went into in Denmark Street, there was just loads of 6-string, and then 5 basses in the corner that were dusty and they weren't looked after, they weren't set up properly. And I thought, this is ridiculous, and then I can do it much better and put some love into it, you know, set them up properly, cleaning the pots and all the little things you take for granted, and that's how I did it. And the main 4, I think, are Fender, Gibson, Rickenbacker, Music Man. Beyond that, I do like to go for the other things. I love harmony basses, they're really cool because of the small faces played, you know. Anything that comes across as a bass that can play and to sound good, obviously. I don't just get things that are antiques just to stick on the wall. I mean, I want people to use them.
So this is Berwick Street. Some fantastic record stores, but famously, this is the album cover for Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory.
I thought it looked familiar.
Yeah, this is a wonderful part of London, you know, for music lovers, but there's record stores all around here.
That's great to hear. Still in 2018, you can still get stores like that.
Yeah, man.
Central London is packed with some of the finest record shops in the city. At stores like Sister Ray and Reckless Records, you'll find a great variety of genres. Or you can head over to Sounds of the Universe for a wide array of soul, reggae, and dub cuts. Back on Denmark Street, we popped into Hank's to check out what they had behind the glass.
It's pretty amazing to see them all in one place.
Yeah.
58 Sunburst, 59 Switchmaster.
63 Telly. Gets
Yes,
in.
Telly man.
On our way to find a bite, we stopped by the friendly guys at No Tom Music, who have got something very cool and very vintage to show us.
So this is No Tom, sort of vintage and rare guitars.
Right.
Whenever I'm in Denmark Street, I always make it a point to at least pop my head in, because there's always something really interesting.
Yeah. This harp guitar from 1916, right?
102 years old. Yeah, so 102 years ago, so made in Kalamazoo.
Right.
Where is Kalamazoo?
Michigan.
Michigan, okay, Kalamazoo in Michigan.
And where are we today?
So yeah, we're in London.
So how did this get here?
That's a fine question.
I'm sure it's got an incredible journey. There's the
Is there
harmonic.
Is there somewhere? Job done. Wow.
We hop in a taxi to our final destination in Camden Town, another impossibly cool and history-rich neighborhood with some of Dan's favorite spots and venues.
Where have you taken us now?
So we're in Camden now,
Okay.
outside of the famous Underworld venue.
So what makes Underworld so great? I mean, I keep hearing about this place.
Yeah, it's a venue that's sort of underneath the World's End pub. 300 capacity. There's a great view of the stage from anywhere.
Oh, nice.
But it's rock and roll, But I've seen some fantastic bands. I've actually played here myself. The music scene here is really vibrant. A fantastic venue. We are going to go down and have a look at one of my favourite venues of all time. Which is
exciting! All right,
let's go.
Okay, Dan, we're at the Jazz Cafe. You said this is one of your favorite places. Why is
It's
that?
a spectacular venue. They have some amazing artists here. Had my stag do here, which was
nice.
awesome. Loads of jazz artists, as you would assume, but the variety of guys who play here is incredible. Sound in here is superb. Great food. It's a wonderful, wonderful venue.
Definitely a place to check out.
Definitely a place to check out.
Also located in Camden is one of London's most robustly stocked shops, dedicated only to the bass player.
We opened in 1993. Martin opened the shop. He was building basses at the time in his flat just down the road, and then decided it would be natural to open a bass shop. So he did, primarily selling his own basses, and then it's just grown and grown, and now we've got about 250 basses. We're probably known for just having everything. There's very few basses that we haven't seen past the shop. Everything, vintage, custom made, boutique, you name it, we've seen it, we've sold it.
Camden also has a long history of being a place where musicians live, dine, and drink.
So Dan, if you know me, you probably know that I'm a fan of 90s British music.
If I know anything about you, Andy, I know that you're a big Britpop fan.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Good Mixer name comes up quite a bit throughout history.
It's sort of one of those fabled venues.
In the 90s, the Good Mixer was the Britpop bar. It was where Elastica was signed and where Blur and Oasis allegedly began their rivalry. It's definitely one of those places that begs the adage, if only these bathroom walls could talk. For most people, it's just a fine place to grab a casual pint after a long day. The Holly Arms was to the 2000s British rock scene what the Good Mixer was to Britpop. Everyone from Pete Doherty to Kate Moss to Arctic Monkeys were found at this watering hole. Amy Winehouse was frequently found pulling pints behind the bar for the locals, even though she didn't work there. Though it burst into flames one evening in 2008, it still stands open today because of the efforts of the regulars who held benefit concerts and raised money to keep it going. London has been such an important hub for popular music and art that it's difficult to find a street in these neighborhoods that doesn't contain some historic gem or fun fact, and we've only scratched the surface. All in all, this is a fantastic city for guitarists and musicians of all kinds to visit.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for giving us a tour of London. As a musician, I feel like I really got to see a really good glimpse of life and a great history lesson too as well.
The history of this place absolutely fascinates me, but I don't think I'll ever get used to walking around Soho and seeing these venues and where Jimmy lived and where David Gilmour bought his fuzz pedal. Those sorts of places just blow my mind. But I will say, I think it's really appropriate to finish the day off with a pint at the Good Mixer. So
Absolutely.
cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.